Wah, masih digital.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome back to the Nudelberg Daily Huddle for your Thursday edition of some motivation, inspiration, perspiration, activation. Let's get after it, gentlemen. Let's go.
All of the evasions.
If you couldn't
Here for you this morning.
If you couldn't tell, Steve Nudelberg is not with us today. We are live from his page, but I will be sitting in his seat today.
He's doing his charity duties board meeting, JA board meeting.
It's always an interesting thing when I have to explain to people how to get to the huddle. Like when I'm presenting by myself and then I end the presentation with, hey, if you don't watch our morning show, you got to go to his page, connect with him. Make sure you don't send him a blank invite because you'll never get connected. Then once you're connected, it's like, I wish there was a slightly easier way to explain that.
I think if you follow Nudelberg, Mr. Nudelberg, it should populate.
So if you could, or you could just follow him. You don't even have to connect with him if you really just don't want to be connected to the guy. But either way, we're glad to have the huddle here this morning. Good morning to Ronald Hunt. Good to see your name in here this morning. Good morning to, you know what? I haven't gotten a chance to shout out to Michelle from Cicel.
I saw it yesterday.
Here every morning. She's a steady Eddie, and I loved my time with her when we were in Fayetteville. So good morning to you, Michelle. Hope you're doing well. I'm looking forward to following up with you soon. Good morning, Jonathan Ahrens, who I saw your post this morning, came in from Chicago with the Chicago deep dish pizza. Good morning, Sherry Cedar, the whole crew, Scott Oglesby. Thanks for being here, guys. Gentlemen, how are you this morning? Or better yet, tell me something good.
I'm off the DL. No longer sick. Battled, it's a baseball season, so I battled probably like a 10-day DL.
Was it mono? It was mono, wasn't it?
Probably could have been, honestly. It might have been. I don't know. Didn't really get a diagnosis. Not a doctor, not going to claim to be, even though I spent a lot of time on WebMD the last few days. But thankful for urgent care, thankful to be feeling better, and thankful to be here.
I want to give a shout out to Moises Ruiz, who I had a virtual coffee yesterday from High Rise Security and Fire, based out of New York, have some offices down here in South Florida. You know, connect with people the way we tell you to. You start sharing who you're doing business with or who you're hanging out with. People see you hanging out with them. They ask you to connect. You ask the question, what made you want to connect? And it leads to an opportunity where you get to have a virtual coffee and make friends with somebody. So it was a great conversation yesterday.
Me and Dad were talking about it yesterday. You have followed our process to a T. And sure enough, once it kind of catches fire, you consistently do it. The results start to show. And you are evidence of that.
Good morning to you, sir. Larry, I will be back in North Carolina in Charlotte in October, I believe. Working with Janine, which good morning to you, Janine. I see you here this morning as well on possibly doing their keynote in October. So if that happens and if that comes through, I will be in Charlotte in October, and I'd love to see you while I'm there, Larry. But without any further ado, let's get to some wake-up music. We've got great content today about how to keep an intern mindset for the rest of your life in everything that you do. And then also we're going to debunk some statistics about email. Let's go.
Wake up, everybody! Get up! Get up! Get up! Get up! Wake up! Come on! Come on! Wake up, everybody! Teach a new way. Maybe then they'll listen what you have to say. Wake up, everybody! No more sleeping in there. No more back to thinking, time for thinking ahead. Come on now.
So let's get after it this morning. I love the idea, and I'm going to give a shout out to the man, the myth, the legend, who wrote a book. In case anybody in the huddle didn't know, Steve Nudelberg wrote a book, and it's got a bunch of rules in it. Tends to be rules that we were raised on, but one of those is treat every day like it's your first day, right? Show up and act like it's your first day. And today is National Intern Day. And for those of you that are not familiar with the sports industry and how coaching works, you have to be an intern before you become a full-time coach. Doesn't matter how, where, when, doesn't matter how many years in the league you played. You can be the greatest NFL player of all time. You want to get into the coaching ranks, you have to go back and be what's called a graduate assistant before entering into your coaching career. And then if you can't be a graduate assistant because there's rules around it, you have to be a quality control coach. But either way, those are intern type positions. So Jake, what does it mean to you to be an intern?
To take on anything that is asked of you. And I think it's so interesting. We go to organizations and we work with organizations and everyone goes, well, that's not my job. Like I get asked to do these things. That's not my job.
Just
when
be like me. Be like me. Be like me. Be like me.
That is exactly correct. And I love that. I love that Shay, I love that you popped in there, because that's part of what makes Shay the director of MIH, is that he's willing to do whatever is necessary to help us be successful, which makes him invaluable to the organization, right? It's how he's become a partner in our organization. It's because we couldn't do all of the things that we do without him. And that's not because we've constantly given him more to do. It's because he's constantly looked for more to do.
Yeah. And I think when you have that mentality, you're not afraid to fail. You're not afraid to try the new task, knowing you're like, I've never done it. I don't know what to do. When you're an intern, you take it on and you might have some angst about, I don't know how to do it, but I want to prove to the people that I'm willing to learn and do it. And so when I think about an intern, they're always willing to take it on and be like, I might not know how to do it, but I'll learn how to do it.
So I love that as a willingness, because I think something that marries to that is the energy and attitude and perspective that you choose to attack it with. When you're an intern, or when you first got hired, or the first day of school, when you think about starting something new, you start out with all of this motivation, not necessarily inspiration, but all of this motivation and energy to be great at it and to do it really well. And you attack everything you do with this level of enthusiasm and energy that is infectious and contagious. Yet the more you do it, what tends to happen through human nature is it becomes a routine, it becomes monotonous, and then you start to lose that energy in the way that you attacked it, which actually hurts you more than anybody else, because you're no longer serving your responsibilities at the same level that you did prior. So to me, part of that being an intern is also being enthusiastic, not just about what you do, but also about doing something else. Somebody asks you to pick up some slack for them, instead of being like, oh yeah, I guess I could do that for you. But absolutely, I would love to help you. And watch the way people respond to you, watch the way people react to you. That's how I made my career in football.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, Mark was probably the best intern that On the Ball ever had. It's probably the best story, talking about going through yellow pages, and I think you did close a deal while you were an intern as well.
1,000%, right? Because like dad was like, all right, here you go. This is your job. Your job is to create new conversations. Here's how you're going to do it. Go do it. And oh, by the way, I was also driving to like Staples to pick up office supplies and like, you know, things of water. I was the guy going to pick up the bagels and stuff when we were having big things and, you know, picking up the food for everybody that we were hosting at the offices. And guess what? I was happy to do it. But that mindset, walking into an arena where I wasn't working for a family member, where I really had no way in other than to earn my way in, which was the football profession, that's what set me apart from everybody else. Was I was willing to not only get you your coffee with 3 creams and 2 sugars, but I was going to do it with a smile on my face and make sure that it was waiting for you at your desk once I knew that that's what you wanted. And whether it was 12 copies, 15 copies, it didn't matter. Whatever the job was, I was going to do it. I was going to do it really quickly. So that's another part of it, I think, is the sense of urgency, right? Like in football, I learned that, and by the way, I wrote about this in my book, that sense of urgency was a price of admission, right? Like if somebody asked you for something in the coaching world, it was already late. So you had to scramble to get it done, to get it to that person, and then having it in your mind that, okay, this is something they need. I got to have this ready for them so that if and when they ask for it again, it's there.
Well, so I also wrote about it in my chapter.
Yeah,
yes, I could say that. I wrote a chapter for Scott McGregor's new book, Stand and Go, that's coming out. And the rule I talked about, I'll give you guys a little sneak peek, was always be the guy that shows up no matter what. And that you'll read about who I wrote about. It's a hint. It's the guy sitting on the other side of the screen, but always be the guy who shows up no matter what. And I tell stories through the excerpt, but be the person that everybody counts on to do the job, and do the job no matter what the circumstances are. And you touched on something that you talked about. You were willing to learn from Dad as an intern. Like, you acknowledge you don't know everything. And we lose that mentality as we get older. We start going through fields, we start learning more, and you lose that drive to learn more. And I know you guys talked about it a bunch this week, but be willing to continue to be mentorable. Look for mentors, look to learn more. Even as you get older, keep that I don't know enough mentality, and you'll continue to learn more.
And that to me is what separates great leaders from average or bad leaders. Is any leader who thinks they have all of the answers is driving that organization into the ground immediately. Even if you have 45 years of expertise in the field and you have a ton of knowledge, there's no way that you have all the answers. So keeping that mentality of I'm willing to learn, I'm willing to listen. I may not agree. I may have different points, but I'm open to hearing everything. You know, Jocko wrote about that in Extreme Ownership and in Dichotomy of Leadership. But I think that's something that it's a hard trait to keep, because as you see more, you feel like you know more, and you start to anticipate things, and you start to be right about things. And that only then in turn feeds your ego of, I have all the answers. So it's a real practice for yourself to say, no, I'm not willing to listen to that internal dialogue of, although I've been in the business for 40 years, although I know a lot, I'm willing to admit I don't know everything, and be willing to continue to learn, even if that means it's from the 19-year-old sitting across from you who you think doesn't have as much information as you do.
Check your ego at the door. Keep an intern mentality. Let's get to some motivational music, and then we'll debunk some email statistics.
Go. So I love that. Yeah.
The first day, night to Roxbury. We just need a video of those guys just bobbing.
Which I don't know if you guys saw. Somebody just did that at a wedding. That was their
No,
entrance to a wedding. It was fantastic. It was fantastic.
Nick Mao says the song reminds me of middle school. Absolutely. Middle school, like, I don't know, it was like the end of elementary school, somewhere around there. But it's an interesting topic because you and I go back and forth on this all the time. Like 90s dance music is
Real strong.
To this
Really
day
strong.
some of the best vibes that you can get at any time. Like you're trying to go to the gym, trying to get up for a meeting.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter when or how. Like when La Bouche hits you, it's coming. Like the energy is on the way. Hard not to move. So I love it. You know, yeah. Rafi says, yeah, this song growing up in South Florida. Like that's just, you just know it, you love it, and it's great stuff. So great morning motivational music, great vibe. Let's talk about some email. So interesting. We got some 18 big sales email statistics for 2022, and they come from all over the place. They come from Gong. They come from HubSpot. They come from Hootsuite. They come from Hunter. So there's a lot of different places where they pulled these statistics from. Some of them drive home some of our principles about sales and about business development and the way that we look at it. And some of them actually contradict some of the traditional sales teachings that go on, which I want to go down to the stat that says, where is it? So no, the number 2, using ROI language in cold emails decreases success rates by 15%. And that comes from Gong. So that is obviously pushing our philosophy forward of you have to connect on something personal first. And I've seen a lot of sales trainers, sales coaches, a lot of people putting out sales content on LinkedIn talk about the importance of being an expert in your field now and showing up as an expert and introducing yourself as an expert. And I think that's really dangerous for people because nobody cares about an expert that they don't know, like, or trust. Right? Like, how many teachers did you have throughout your life that were experts in their field, but were absolute jerk-offs that you didn't want to listen to, that made learning that much harder for you? So there's people out there that are saying, you know, oh, the commonality isn't the thing, and don't show up with likability first because that's not going to separate you from the competition. And there are statistics here that would tell you that that's completely wrong. If you show up with price, if you show up with ROI, if you show up with your industry expertise first, it falls on deaf ears.
Well, I think it's interesting because you go down to number 6 and you are 2 times more likely to book a meeting during a cold email when asking for your prospect's interest and not their time. And they bold interest. It's not about the time. And we even teach when you reach out to somebody, it is, yes, it's cold at first, but doing the research in order to connect with them on something that is important to them, not important to you, will have a far bigger success rate.
Well, and the research that you do makes it no longer cold, right? And so I think there's like this, what is cold emails?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like there is showing up to somebody with a template about who you are and who your company is. That is a truly, truly cold email, right? There may be a first touch where that person doesn't necessarily know as much about you as they should, but you can create some warmth in the email by what you talk about, right? By doing some research on them and having some kind of commonality and common interest that has nothing to do with business, that has everything to do with who they are, what they care about, what ties you together, and offers you the opportunity to build a friendship. But something that they didn't really talk about here in any of the stats is using video. Now, I watched it peak last year, where we've been talking about video for 3 years now, right? Probably longer than that. I mean, Dad goes back 4 or 5 years talking about video. But if you talk about video embedded in email, everybody was really pushing it heavy, and everybody went into using it to pitch immediately because everybody was dispersed. And now you've seen it trail off a little bit. Not everybody's talking about it as much. Oh, by the way, we haven't stopped, and it's still the greatest success tool that we have. almost 100% of the time that I send somebody an email with a video in it, the first thing they say back to me is, unbelievable video. Thanks for the video. Love the video. So when you talk about tools and understanding how to use the tools, that's the number one way to increase your success through email.
And if you don't believe us, 90% of people say video helps them make a purchasing decision.
So and that to me is, you got to break up your sales process into two different segments. You got to talk about business development and pipeline development. And then you got to talk about business development as moving it through the pipeline to become an active opportunity and agreeing. I don't use the word closing anymore because nobody gets closed anymore. Everything that happens today when people make a decision is all you've done is educate them enough and create enough of a relationship that they feel confident in agreeing to do business with you. So I love John Wensbein says, I use video on my LinkedIn weekly and get an average of 10,000 impressions within 48 hours compared to a written post. So that's it in your marketing and content strategy. When you take that same philosophy and apply it in a personalized individual level, it's unbelievable the response rate that you'll get. So there's a ton of different stats through here. Globally, Fridays see the highest email open rates, nearly 19%, compared to the lowest.
Which was surprising to me.
On Saturday.
I would assume that Monday would have the highest open rate because I feel like people are rejuvenated, ready to get to work, whereas Friday, people are like checked out. So that one caught me off.
So, and this is how I know that our philosophy rings true is when everybody shows up to work, the last thing they're going to get to is their email because they're worried about getting back to work. Right. What do I got to get caught up on? What do I got to do for my job, task management, meetings, all of the things you got to get prepared for.
So Monday morning, we had our 8 o'clock standing meeting. We'd go right in, boom. Then it'd be probably 9:30 before everybody got coffee, sat down, you know.
Exactly correct. So you got people showing up, coming off of the weekend, going into meetings, and then they're walking out of those meetings with things to do for the week. That inbox starts to get so where people are kind of like, oh, Friday's not a great day to contact people. I call complete bullshit on that.
Well, so kudos to you and Dad. You two are the early risers and preach the importance of getting up early. There is a spike in email interest between 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. And I wonder why that is. Wonder why there's a big interest, because nobody else is doing it. While everyone else is flooding the inbox all through the day, getting bombarded because everyone's like, well, I don't want to bother them at 6 a.m. They're going to get to it when they're ready. And it doesn't matter.
So back to the point of waking up early, high achievers get up early. So if you're trying to get to somebody that is of that similar mindset, what a great way to connect with them early in the morning to say, hey, whether you're following up, whether you're reaching out for the first time, whatever that communication is or looks like, there's no better time to do it than in the morning. And for me, I like knowing that it's all gone out early so that I can spend the day working through the coaching clients, preparing content, all of the other things that have to happen throughout the day I'm able to work on because I know I handled the inbox early.
And I'll give you one more, whether you want to debunk it, whether they should be doing it. But salespeople spend 21% of their day writing emails. Should they be doing that?
Absolutely not. Because if you're spending all of that time writing, how much faster could you get it done if you were to just speak it to somebody? If you were to just be able to say it? And that to me is, we can close on this, it was a big video conversation day, but I know that you spend time staring at the screen, looking at every period, comma, exclamation point. Does this sound the way I want it to sound? Do I need to double space this line? Is this too many paragraphs? While you're spending all that time doing it, I'm hitting record. I'm delivering my message the way I want it to be received. I'm ensuring that somebody gets to see me, hear me, and feel me. That's the ultimate the game changer, is that they get to feel me deliver that message, which is the thing that differentiates you from everybody else. So great conversation today. Intern mentality, how to properly use email, use video. If you don't know how to use video, please reach out to us because we would love to help you with that. Also, next Wednesday, is the first GOTB live coaching call. So for those of you that are looking to be a part of that community that's looking to get 1% better every single week. This is your opportunity. It's $4.99 a month. We are capping it at 50 people, and we're very close, very, very close to capping it. So do not waste any more time. If you're interested, reach out to Shay. We will see you tomorrow. I will be coming to you from Charleston. Let's get down to business.
Please don't worry about me. I'm about to let my heart speak. My friends keep telling me to leave this. So let's get down to business. Let's get down to business. Give you one more night to get this.